All right. Too many things to push.
I have you live streaming now. You're all set, Rennie.
Great, thanks. Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our Finance Committee meeting. Today is March 31st. This is a special meeting of the Finance Committee, March 31st, 2021. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to make this as efficient and respectful as possible. First, we ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. The moderator for tonight is City Clerk Elisa Tenti, and she reserves the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute buttons. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If any council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. I will call on members by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, you can sign up to speak at our monthly council meetings. Please email Elisa Tenti to sign up by noon the day of the meeting, or you can submit written comment for the record by the same deadline. The email address is emtenti at kingston-ny.gov. You can also drop comments off at the drop box located outside the side door of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. Clerk Elisa Tenti is the moderator for tonight's meeting. She has the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. At tonight's meeting, we have in attendance myself, Chair of the Finance Committee, Rennie Scott Childress. We also have members Steve Shabbat, Don Tollerman, Michelle Hirsch, and sitting in tonight for Tony Davis is Jeffrey Morrell. We have city staff, as noted, Elisa Tenti, Suzanne Cahill, Dan Baker, John Toohey, and Corporation Counsel, Kevin Bryant. We have a couple of guests who we'll introduce in just a second. For now, we thank you for your patience during these difficult times, and on behalf of the Common Council, I wish you and your family good health. I now call this meeting to order at 6:41 Eastern Standard Time. Great, thank you. As I noted earlier before we started recording, we have tonight's special meeting was originally called in order to take care of all of these budget reconciliations that are a normal aspect of our end of the fiscal year process, as we try to make sure all departments have their financial P's and Q's in order. And we've added a couple things for tonight's meeting, but in deference to our guests and to the necessity to be, on the ball thinking about these issues, I would like to flip the last three items and put those at the front so that we can then stick around later to do all the budget related stuff just among the council people, because that I think will not be of any great interest to the public at large. You're of course welcome to stay if you're visiting and want to see how that works. Absolutely welcome to stay. I just, in deference to our guests, would like to go ahead and get them off the agenda as soon as we can. So is that okay with all the members of the committee? Yes, 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 good. Okay. So the first item is the request for authorization to file for grants funding. That's from planning. So Suzanne Cahill, are you with us?
I am.
Hey, Sue.
Hello. Yeah, this communication somehow got misplaced for the regular meeting. And so I was asked to just recirculate it, which I did the following day. You all should have received it. It's a request to the National Parks Service, and it's for underrepresented communities grant. We've put together the grant application. It's a maximum grant amount of $50,000. There is no match required. However, we will be matching it with some local in-kind services of staff. It's really impossible to manage and administer a grant without putting in some in-kind services. So the purpose of this grant is really to just further the research and investigation of the Pine Street African-American burial grounds. We've started that process, but this is to complete it and actually create the documentation to put it in for nomination to both the state and national registers. And then the second portion of the grant will involve just doing some additional work on the African-American community within the city of Kingston and try to begin to establish more of a developed library of resources on that. So that is, in a nutshell, you should have received, I hope, my letter and the drafted resolution for the grant.
Yes, we did. Any questions directly for Sue before we ask for a motion? Steve Shabbat?
Yes. So excuse me if maybe I misheard you. I thought you said there was no match, but then you said we would use in-kind services for the match.
The grant does not require a match, but we are obviously administrative costs. We can use it, and it improves your chances if you do show that you are committed as a community and you do put in some in-kind costs. It's not a financial, it's not a cash contribution, but it's our work that we would normally do as part of the grant administration.
Okay.
All right. Do we have a motion on this piece of legislation? Motion, Steve Shabbat. Second, Michelle Hirsch. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing no interest in discussing, I will call for a vote without objection. All in favor, thumbs up. All opposed? It passes unanimously. Great, we appreciate it, Sue. Looks like a great grant. Good luck on getting it.
Thanks. You are doing the zoning task force tonight too?
Yes, we'll talk about that after we talk about
Okay, I'll hang out for that. Okay.
Okay, great. So the next item on the agenda is open up the discussion here on, let me make sure I've got the right one here. Nope. Hold on a second. There we go. Yep. So this is the proposal from Acre to look at creating a tax structure for Kingston Village as a way of trying to create stabilized rents for folks who are living in that facility now that they have purchased it, that Acre has. So with us tonight from Acre are Will and Mike. So I will invite you two, please, to give us an idea of what it is that this particular proposal encompasses. Then we will hear from Dan Baker. And then at that point, if we feel like we want to discuss further, we'll have a motion and then have discussion among the members of the council. All right. So Will and Mike, take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Rennie. Hi, I'm Will Brocker. I'll jump right into kind of the nuts and bolts of this proposal. The ideation on this started about 11 months ago when we first found out that E&M was interested in potentially selling their portfolio, and there was some distress with the ownership group in New York City. This was part of our mission from the beginning, was potentially finding an agreement in a way to commit Stony Run to a stabilized structure going forward. So we began conversations and kind of diligence on this about 11 months ago. And we found that we're in this unique window of time where we can structure a long-term preservation of stabilized rents for no decrease in taxes, just a predictable increase in taxes going forward. So that's kind of the history of where this came from. We've worked with all of the folks that we report to, most specifically our lender, to really back into how we can maximize affordability. We can hit multiple AMI bands and also provide kind of this long-term sustainable, stabilized housing. In a letter that we wrote to the mayor on February 24th, we kind of outlined the structure that we arrived at, which was immediately investing, which we are in the process of doing now, over $3 million in necessary improvements to get the existing units online. There was quite a bit of uninhabitable units on site. There's amenities were shut down, the pools are offline. There's a huge amount that just needs to be done, whether the rents are market or whether they're stabilized. So we're committed to following through on those renovations, regardless of the outcome of this decision. And where we were able to hit on the AMI limits was 5% of the 266 units at 70% AMI, 5% at 80, 10% at 90, and 80% at 100. And this is primarily due to the tax bill that is in place at Stony Run, which is approximately $3,500 per unit. And the way that this is overseen on an annual basis is the federal government, HUD, sets income limits for different AMI thresholds at the county level. And we will act in accordance, which we'll get into detail if we move forward with papering an agreement where we will provide rent rolls, kind of our proof that we are doing income checks and staying within the bounds of the agreement. And in return for the stabilization, we're hoping to receive a 0.5% increase in taxes going forward. Historically, I think the tax base has increased between 2 and 4% per year. So this would be a bit lower than market, but it would not include any tax breaks. I'll pause for a second if anyone has any questions or comments, or if Mike wants to jump in for anything.
Jeffrey Morrell.
Hi, Mike and Will. I'm Jeffrey Morrell. I'm the alderman for Ward 1, where this property is located. Good to meet you both.
Hi, great to meet you as well.
First of all, I just want to say, yeah, I know you're doing this of your own will. You're not required to, so we appreciate it. And I think I've heard from a lot of constituents that there's a lot of questions about it, not necessarily to do with you, but just because the experience with the prior landlord was so negative that people are a little bit on edge about what your intent is. So I just have a few questions about, first of all, are you using the Ulster County AMI to calculate the affordability or the City of Kingston AMI? If you can explain that and why one or the other.
Sure, it's Ulster County, so it's a Kingston MSA. And AMI is only calculated on a per bedroom count on the county level by HUD.
Okay. And then the other, is a little bit more going into the agreement when you get to that, but just a few of the concerns that some of the residents have expressed to me that I hope you will take into account and incorporate into the agreement are, for example, they would like to see parking, garbage removal, and heat to continue to be included in the rent. I think it's been the case so far, so they're concerned that the rent won't go up, but then all these additional charges would come up instead to make up for the difference. The other concern is that for a couple of years now, amenities haven't been available to the residents. They have been closed or So some kind of guarantee in the agreement that the amenities such as laundry, pool, playground will remain available. And also some kind of oversight by either the Common Council or the mayor or both. So to make sure that the agreement is being kept. So those are some of the things that just on behalf of my constituents, I wanted you to be aware of, and hopefully you'd be able to incorporate into the agreement.
Absolutely. We promise we're bringing back all the amenities, regardless of any outcome. It is top of our list, and we have folks working around the clock to get everything back online.
Thank you.
The other part there, though, and I don't know if this is the time to discuss it, but was the concern that some other fees might be introduced, like parking fees and things like that, as a way of increasing revenues for the facility. But then, you know, that would mitigate any kind of stabilization of the rents.
So those are all, Mike here, hi. So those are all things that we are open to discussing, and as we get into papering, kind of going through in detail what is and what is not included. You know, we're open to discussion on all of it. At the end of the day, our mission here is to do something that everyone can walk away and say, hey, this is really great for the community. And you know, you are definitely heard. So thank you for that feedback.
Great. Dan Baker? City Assessor?
Thanks. Hi, good evening. To answer Jeffrey's, one of his questions there was the responsibility of checking on the agreement. We completely agree, Jeffrey, that there will be you know, a regulatory agreement and a pilot agreement that would formulate this concept. And yes, the city would be required to, we'd be writing into the agreement how specifically we would check on all these different items that we would come up with within the regulatory agreement. We do have a new housing director. You know, this may be you know, put into that office, but somewhere, somehow in the agreement, we'll be having those checks and to be able to, you know, be the regulatory agency in this agreement.
Great. Michelle, Will, did you have more to say in your presentation, or can we take some more questions here?
We can take some more questions. I think a lot of it will come out just from Q&A.
Michelle, go ahead.
Hi, can you just go through the number of apartments and the percentages that they would be for AMI and how many apartments that equals, please?
Sure. So 5% is 13 apartments at 70% of AMI, 5%.
I'm sorry, just 1 second. I just want to write down 70%. Sure. I'm sorry. Say it one more time.
5% is 13 apartments, and that's at 70.
Okay.
Then you have another 5%, also 13 at 80. 10% or 27 apartments at 90% of AMI. And 80% or 213 apartments at 100% of AMI.
Okay, thank you.
And Michelle, I just sent you the email that of the acre proposal, and those numbers will be right in there also for your further reference.
Thank you.
Yeah, bottom of page 1 are those particular things. And also anybody who's looking at the agenda, who's following us online, this is page 43 of the agenda packet. That's where the acre proposal starts. All right, good. Any other questions at this point?
Well,
Don Tollerman?
Hey guys. Why don't you finish your presentation, and then as Rennie said, there'll be discussion. So continue.
Sure. So continuing through basically the commitment we're making on the capital side, I was going to mention about $545,000 is committed to site work, sidewalks, parking lots, roof, HVAC. Another $370,000 is going to upgrading the amenities immediately, which is the clubhouse, fitness center, pool, tennis courts, which will probably be reprogrammed. $361,000 for common area upgrades, hallways, siding, security, paint, cleaning. There are some roofs we have to tend to immediately. Approximately $715,000 for apartment interiors, flooring, lighting, kitchens, bathrooms, and then about $990,000 for general conditions, as a lot of that is labor, architecture, soft costs, and contingency items.
I have a question there, Will. How much of that is your fees, management fees, of the 3 million? What is paid to you guys in fees?
So we have a third-party management company that receives the fees. Greystar, both on the property management side and on the construction management side, are receiving 2.5%.
Okay, don't
For
you
the fee
guys
stream.
charge a fee for, for,
We charge our equity the fees, is how that works. The investors pay the fees.
so your fees don't come out of the 3 million investment?
If you net it out, it would come out of the three. I guess the total project budget, yes, because that's a gross value, but the fees are being paid directly by the investors' equity on a monthly basis for the
Right,
work
I
that we're
know.
doing.
I assume that. I'm just saying, you're saying you're investing 3 million. I just would like to know approximately how much is that of that is your fees that you're for the transaction and for oversight.
I think part of the challenge is that there's a fee for the equity for the entire portfolio, but it's not necessarily broken out
No,
by
it's
this property particularly. So, yeah, so it's a little bit of a tough one to.
It would be the levered amount of equity required to get the 3 million times the 1%. So we can get back to you with exactly what that is. But it would be the 20 something, some odd percent of this times 1%. And the reason why this proposal kind of excites us is we see this as the most efficient use of subsidized rent per tax dollar paid by the public. So when compared to the other Article 11 regulatory agreements in the city, it's over 7 times more tax efficient on the amount of rent subsidized relief to individuals in the community provided for every $1 in tax revenue that the public would not be paying or getting, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So I guess to kind of go back to big picture on that point, it's not typical for an owner to enter into an agreement like this voluntarily. And typically the way that these agreements are structured are by much lower agreed upon taxes going forward, and then typically a wider band for AMI limits. So part of our kind of goal in understanding the community and the city's interests before we even got into this project, as I mentioned 11+ months ago, was understanding that there was a real interest and an opportunity for us to kind of preserve affordability from a long-term perspective in the city, and try to figure out a way to structure it in such a way that it kind of checks the box of social impact within kind of our purview. Because as we think about these projects, it's really about building community at each project. And sure, there is a financial goal, but there's also a social and community goal as well within Acre. And just, we wouldn't take on a deal or a project unless there was an opportunity to improve the community in doing it. So part of the genesis of this was understanding and reading the news, frankly, kind of what's going on in the city, and seeing this as an opportunity to do something voluntarily that creates a benefit. And so as Will mentioned, typically, the tax per unit is closer to $1,000 a unit. And as much as we wanted to protect long-term affordability, we also wanted to make sure that we weren't decreasing the tax base in the city as well. So we were trying to thread this needle of accomplishing both goals of preserving the tax base while also preserving some element of affordability into the future.
Great. Thank you. Dan Baker, do you want to give us some overview here from your standpoint?
Sure. Agreements like this, the city does currently have with Lace Mill, Energy Squared, Rupco's new facility that's being built on Flatbush Avenue, Birchwood Village, Springbrook Village in downtown. So this tool that the city has used to support affordability in the community is not new for the city or the Common Council. It's a tool that the council and the mayor and the city at large has used to support affordable housing. What is unique about this proposal is one, it's an existing complex that is looking to restrict its rents, and even more unique, restrict its rents in a marketplace with exploding rents. And it is a way, if the Common Council sees fit, it is a way for the city to continually support affordable housing on the long term, because with the upswings and the downswings of the economy and the area median income and the upswings and downswings of rent prices, a lot of the responsibility for those negative terms are going to be the responsibility of the owner of the facility. So, for example, if area median income sometime in the near future does take a dip for some recession reasons, it was going to be on that property owner to take that hit. At the same time, they're not looking for a decrease in property taxes. We have estimated that the taxes right now, because there's two parcels there, are about $3,427 a door. And we're not, and they're not looking for currently a decrease. So this is not a new tool per se under Private Housing Finance Law 577. The legislature has passed to allow communities to support affordable housing. So this tool isn't new, but what would be new is the way that the city would be using it and entering into a regulatory agreement with the current owner to support housing in this way. So, I think it's a pretty unique situation to be able to have this opportunity in front of the Common Council to make a decision if they want to, take these 266 units and preserve them for the long term for affordability and all the different ups and downs that the community may see.
Don Tollerman?
Hi, this is Don Tollerman. So Will and Mike, I've met you guys at least a few times. I like your, what you're trying to accomplish here. I really want there to be more affordable housing in our community. And, we clearly need it. So, I'm wanting to support you. But the numbers that I've been looking at really give me great pause. And, I'm just going to throw out some of the things that I have, that I perceive that that really make me think that this is not in the best interest of our city. What I'm perceiving is that you guys are looking at the rent at a rental increase of up to 50%. And this is based on the rents that this is on data from the owner that when they had put up the property for sale, they shared their prospectus with the brokerage community, and at that point the average rents were $1,117, and you're proposing bringing them up to looking at what your entire mix of 80% of the units at 100% AMI, et cetera. It's an average of just over $600 increase in the average rent. And if you take your $3 million and you divide it by unit, I'm looking at an investment of $11,000 per unit. But the value of the units are going to be much greater, the whole, and I'm sharing this, I'm a marketing guy, I'm not a real estate professional, but I do dabble in real estate investing, and I've gone through these numbers with some real estate professionals, so I'm not just winging it here. So I'm happy to have further conversation, and maybe offline we can talk about some other ways, some middle points. But the way I'm looking at this, you guys are going to be getting you're going to be getting almost market rate at at 100% AMI. Your rents are going to be, you're going to be getting on a 2-bedroom, 18, as according to your data, that's 1882. That's top of the market for a 2-bedroom, and 1570 for a 1-bedroom. So you really, will be able to get top of the market price and have 0 tax increase for 3 years, and then 0.5, after that. It seems to me like there's a great profit in this for you as it is, without having a tax freeze or a virtual tax freeze. So I'm not.
Yeah. Sorry,
Go ahead.
I just, there's a couple of things that I think are worth mentioning, because you do make a lot of great points, and I think it's worth talking through those and piece by piece. So one of the things that we took on with acquiring this portfolio, our properties, specifically Kingston Village, Sunny Run, that have significant deferred maintenance, as Will mentioned. A lot of the improvement items, such as sidewalk repairs, the roofs, the HVAC, as Will calls them, Easter eggs. We seem to have Easter eggs every day, and surprises of kind of issues that we're becoming more and more aware of. So a lot of that budget has to do with deferred CapEx. A lot of that budget has to do with amenities that, as everyone who lives in the community is aware of, have been taken offline and kind of have fallen into a dilapidated state.
Right, but whether or not you get this tax agreement, you're still going to have to make those improvements. I mean, for your investors, for the upkeep of the property, they have to be done anyway.
100%. So the approach has been, okay, so we need to borrow money in order to make these improvements, of course, right? So the question is over the long term, are we going to be able to pay back that loan over time? And part of that is, in order to make these improvements, one of the things that we've been very specific about and careful about is making sure that existing residents do not have significant rent increases. And so the prior owner came in and increased many people's rents by 30, 40, 50%. And that is while taking amenities and things off of the table. And so what we're proud to be able to do is to keep existing rents where they are, or with minor increases, but on natural turnover, be able to capture market rent in order to pay back the loan that we are taking in order to make all of these repairs and improvements. So if you look at those materials and you look closely at them, we're not assuming that all of these apartments are turned over. We're only assuming a smaller percentage of these become vacant on natural turnover from people who buy a house or move to another city or naturally turn over, which is typical, and being able to get market rate in order to pay back the loan to make the improvements. And then one more point, just real quick, is on the AMI limits. These aren't averages; those are limits. So those are not to exceed. So there's, those are the purpose of setting these thresholds was really to say, over the long term, if rents continue to increase at the rate that they are at the market level, workforce housing is considered kind of that 80 to 120% range. And this is an opportunity to preserve workforce housing for the long term based on the AMI limits. And this isn't something that we're doing for financial gain. And frankly, there'll probably be a bit of a loss, but the social impact and the ability to do that for the long term, in our opinion, is worth kind of going through this conversation. We can't take too big of a hit, or else our lender is going to say no, and we can't pay back our loan and do the improvements. So there's a balance between being able to accomplish our goals of having a positive social impact, while also being able to repay the loan that we need to take care of a lot of these issues.
Michelle Hirsch.
Yes, hi, Alderwoman Hirsch here. So first, I'm hear you saying that you want to take care of the social impact, but I also understand that you just recently crowdsourced for funding to get investors. So
yeah, so
why didn't you try to get more of an investment so that you didn't have to come and to get a tax break?
Yeah, so the investment and the tax break are so I guess two things. So the investment, we did crowdfund a portion of the money that we raised to purchase the portfolio. It wasn't a majority portion; it was a minority portion that we crowd raised. The majority of the money has come from people who live in the community, both in Dutchess and Ulster, kind of the surrounding Hudson Valley area. And that makes up the majority of our investor base. They're mostly smaller investors. Frankly, there's a lot of people who kind of steer clear of investing in upstate New York and New York in general right now. And part of that is because it's, there's a lot of pushback on owners. And I think one of the things that we're really eager to do, and maybe we're a little bit too hopeful, is that we can kind of change the narrative on what it means to be a community builder and an owner. And that's kind of how we think of it. And we're young and maybe we're naive, but our hope is that we can do this in a way that we're able to bring in other people who are smaller investors, who believe in the community, who live locally. We grew up nearby. We didn't grow up in Kingston, but we grew up in the Hudson Valley. Will's family came through Kingston. But how can we bring that kind of local presence, do things differently, kind of see what the owners have done in the past and be able to kind of rewrite the narrative. So that's kind of the framework of the investor base that we were able to get. And then the majority of the money that we have to make these improvements are from a lender. We didn't have enough people in the community to raise the full amount.
Dan
And so
Baker?
why did you pick this one building if you've purchased a portfolio of buildings?
For the tax agreement?
Mhm.
Frankly, because in kind of doing our research and reading the news prior, it seemed like there was the biggest need here. So this project in particular seemed to be one that was very much talked about. I think it does definitely kind of live in the community as a place for people who live and work locally. And it seemed like a good fit to be able to make a big impact in the city with a project or a property that already has a really strong community of people who I think would appreciate and benefit from a long-term agreement like this.
Dan Baker? You're muted, Dan.
Thanks. As I've told other council people of late, when they've had maybe some questions about this proposal, and it's obviously ultimately up to the common council and the mayor if they come to an agreement in concept with regard to this. But on a long-term view, with what's happening in our current marketplace today, it is obvious that Acre did not need this agreement to purchase the property or to further invest in this property. So you may ask, well, why are they here today? It is my understanding, and through asking them questions and researching the marketplace, that they are here to, yes, very, I believe, lightly limit their future tax burden, but at the same time, this is a great opportunity, I feel, for the common council with very little risk to limit future and current rental increases in a rental marketplace that is going absolute bonkers. So I think it is important for the common council to have a long-term view of a potential agreement. That this agreement may limit future and or current rental increases, which I think I hear from the council that they are concerned about rental increases on their constituents. And this is a way for that to happen with, I think, very limited impact on the tax burden. Or excuse me, on the tax levy.
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button. Go ahead, Michelle.
So this would be a question, I guess, for Kevin Bryant, Corporation Counsel. So since we have a new affordable housing law on the books now, that any 5 or more units that are newly developed or renovated would already have to have a 10% or more requirement for 80% AMI. So if they're only offering 5%, how does that work? 5% of the apartments, not 10%.
I'll have to take a closer look at that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure, Michelle, but it would be 10% at 80 or below AMI. So
Right. So they just said,
yeah. Okay. Dan Baker.
Does that include Does that include renovation?
Mhm.
Who is the determining factor on that? Or what is the determining factor, and who makes that decision on the renovation?
Well, we just passed new zoning code 4058 affordable housing. So it says in any new development or renovation of an existing structure, development that includes 5 or more overall housing units, of the 5 or more overall housing units, 10% or more of those units shall be dedicated to affordable housing. And it was my understanding that it was an 80% AMI.
Well, even if that's, well, there's a question, of course, what renovation means, but this would be 10% because it's 5% at 80% and 5% at 70%, which would be 10% at 80% or below. Well, it's something we can always work out later. Yes. So tonight, the basic idea is to get a sense of the Common Council, or at least of this committee. We don't have a final agreement, right? So we can put more work into the numbers. Is that right, Dan?
I would say that there is a proposed resolution that is out there. So I think it's up to the Common Council how they would want to proceed, if they would like to more time to discuss among themselves, to speak with Mike and Will and Aker, to speak with myself. I mean, the options are up to the Common Council, but to answer your question more directly, there is a resolution, and I think a committee report could be had if the Common Council and this committee is interested tonight.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't see a letter from the mayor. I just see the Aker proposal. Don Tollerman?
I have an idea for that, but before I say that, I want to just share another concern, which is that this type of structure, I anticipate that any current owner of properties in the city would want the same deal. That you know, even if they own, you know, a small 3-unit multifamily, or maybe, you know, 20 buildings, I think that anybody would say, hey, I'll agree to affordability, to the 577 state provision, and agree to limit my rent increases if I get to limit or negate my tax increases. So I'm, you know, if we agree to this type of thing, I think we're kind of opening the floodgates, which might be a good thing, okay? Because if we do come up with a structure for affordable housing that we are all comfortable with, and the mayor is comfortable with, and are willing to extend this to other developers, that could be a great thing. But I'm just saying that this type of arrangement is something that almost every owner would want to have also, because it's, you know, it freezes their taxes and gives them some upside. As Dan said, yes, it protects rents if rents go way up. But things, you know, this is an absolute peak right now of the market. Could it keep going? Of course it could. But over the last 20 or 30 years, you know, the market in Kingston has been up, flat, down. It's really never done this type of increase. And, you know, so I'm just saying that if we do pass this, that many other owners will want the same deal. So that said, you know, one way we might want to proceed is to talk about a different ratio of AMI, right? Rather than 80%, you know, maybe it should be, you know, closer to 50% AMI or 60. I don't know what the numbers are, you know, but I think that would make this more reasonable to have not 80% of the apartments at 100% of AMI, but maybe 80% at 60% AMI. I don't know what the numbers are, but I think this is a little too rich, too generous to agree to.
Dan, if I could, we're guaranteed an agreement like this would guarantee that 5%, that 0.5% increase, right? So even if property values fell, we would still be seeing increases in the tax there, right?
Yeah, that's 100% correct. And
Just
to
0.5%, Rennie, just 0.5.
Don, can you
After
let him
3
answer,
years.
please? Don, let Dan answer, please.
and to that's 100% correct. And to Don's other 2 points, that somehow the floodgates would open if this somehow we agreed to a 577 agreement. I respectfully disagree. We've already have, as I talked about when I first came on tonight, we already have a lot of 577 agreements. And in fact, I think the mayor and this council, who has supported affordable housing over the past many years, would have listened to any and all offers from residential developers and how they could have done this. In fact, I think that's the reason, one of the reasons why ACRE is here, is because the city of Kingston held hearings about affordability. They put it out there. They know that city of Kingston works with housing developers to support affordability. So somehow that this would trigger people coming in to say, yes, I'm going to invest $3 million in my property, and then enter into an agreement that's going to cap my taxes but not lower them. I don't foresee that happening. It hasn't happened in the past. So it's in part of this agreement also, you have to would remember, is the investment into the community that is going to happen in this facility, and what it potentially may bring, as this is workforce housing. It would bring solid, quality, affordable workforce housing into the community without having astronomical rents. And what do we see in the marketplace today? People buy a multifamily or small multifamily complex, they renovate, and I would encourage all of the common council to go out and actually do their own anecdotal survey on what people are paying for rents today. And really understand the pressure that is out there on those renters, and what this potentially could do as a model for securing affordable rents that are linked to median income for community members. So I don't think the floodgates are going to open, and if they do, that'll be the decision of the common council, how they deal with that and how they deal with those proposals. It may be, as John says, a very good thing where you can get investment into the community, investment into a housing facility that has quality, affordable housing. I think that might be actually a good thing. So if it does happen, the common council would then make that decision as to, they could pick from the best proposals. So it actually may be a good thing, and maybe something that it's a good Kickstarter as to what may happen. So just want to remind the council, this isn't a tax break proposal. And in addition, we've already had these, and unfortunately, we haven't seen a flood of proposals come forward. This is one of the first, and I would strongly have them consider it.
And just to add to that, I think I can speak for Will here too. If this does create an influx of people and owners interested into preserving long-term quality workforce housing, that would be a great outcome of this. I think that's exactly the reason why we're trying to take the approach that we are, which is to kind of change the historical ownership and the mentality around that, and look at it through a different lens. And hopefully we can set an example and a precedent, and we would love for people to follow in our footsteps. And I think that would be a great outcome for the city of Kingston and the community at large.
And we've seen what happens when you have real estate investors who are not really concerned about the livelihoods and the quality of living for their tenants. So, good, thank you. Any other questions for Dan, Mike, or Will from any of the members of the council? Michelle Hirsch?
I just want to say that I just found you were correct about the language on the 10%. It's 80 or less.
Sorry, I found the mute button and then I couldn't make it work right. Great, okay. Members of the Finance Committee, we could have a motion and discuss this and either vote on it tonight or, collect more information, table it till the next Finance Committee meeting, which will be about 2 weeks from now. Or if you want to discuss further, we can just put it on the agenda for the next regular Finance Committee meeting. Do I have a sense of the council here? A sense of the committee, rather? Jeffrey, then Michelle.
I'm just filling in, so I won't be part of the next finance meeting, but I would like to have a little bit more information. And I haven't seen the resolution. I didn't see it on the agenda that Dan was mentioning, so I wouldn't feel comfortable voting without having read that thoroughly.
Okay. Steve, how about you? I haven't heard from you. I'm sorry, Michelle, you're next, then Steve.
Yeah, I'm just not prepared to vote tonight. I feel like since we already have something for 10%, I just feel like the offer should be a little better. More apartments capped at a lower AMI.
Steve? Steve, are you there? Steve looks frozen. I think he's good and frozen. So I'm getting the sense that then we would like to put this on the agenda. Ooh. Steve? He keeps moving around my screen. Do you all see Steve even? I see his name.
I see his name, but he's not on camera.
Oh, he's back. Steve, are you there? Oh, there we go.
There, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I don't know how far I got in my speech before I left, but anyway, yeah, I would agree that I would like to see us have a little more time. I'm not saying this is a bad idea. It sounds, it sounds like a good idea. I think we've been looking, at least I have said this numerous times, that we should be looking for developers to come in to accomplish this. And this looks like a good opportunity. Whether we're the can of worms thing, yes, could go either way, but it could be good. We could be bringing in more folks and create a little more offset some of the rates with some other companies coming in here. I don't know. It depends on how you look at it, but I certainly think we should continue the discussion on this. I think in principle it's a good idea, but obviously people have some questions here. So I certainly wouldn't mind putting it off till the next meeting.
I get a sense of consensus here. So we will take this up. We'll put this on the agenda for the next full finance committee meeting. I agree with Steve, and I think the sentiments that I hear from everybody that we very much like the idea of this kind of proposal. There's just some questions about numbers. It's the first time we've done something like this, and so we'd like to be a little bit clearer before we take a complete dive. All right. So Will and Mike, thanks very much for being here. We look forward to talking to you some more over the next couple of weeks, and we'll be in touch about the process. Feel free to give me a call, or we'll talk sometime later in the week and sit down and figure out what else we might need to know and how to go forward with that. Dan, thank you for being here too. Appreciate your making things clear for us. And anything else anybody wants to say here?
Just thank you very much for listening to us. And if you want to reach out to Will or I directly over the phone or to meet in person, we're around. So I'm happy to talk more, and look forward to working something out with the city and making a positive impact on the community. So thank you.
Which reminds me, actually, if you could send us your contact information, just to, if you'll send it to me rather, so I have it in one place. I can share that with all the members of the council, and then they can be in touch as they wish.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you so much. We want everyone to be excited about this, and it's the same math equation as Energy Square, Lace Mill, or Landmark. It's just, where do you want taxes to be? Where do you want affordability to be? And we're happy to work with those. The approach we took was not decreasing taxes at all and continuing to increase them. So it's really just a math problem of where we all want to shake out. So really appreciate everyone hearing us out, and look forward to continuing the discussion. Have a great night.
Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right. Thank you all for engaging in that. I thought that was quite helpful. All right. So the next item then on our agenda, which is actually number 14, is about hiring Dover Cole as the consultants for the potential process of revising our zoning code. Let's see, before we get started, Sue Cahill, do you want to give any background information here? I know there had been a discussion about the impact statement, and I believe we got that pretty much resolved.
Right, yeah, no, I just really wanted to sign on tonight. I thought that some of the others that were involved in the discussion from the city side would be here as well, just to make sure that you did see the communication that came back from the consultants that does outline that they will be covering the environmental process. I think it's a good compromise that they've made, and I would encourage that we go forward with this. It's an important project for the city to move this zone, the entire zoning forward. It's long overdue.
Yeah, and I think that there's a really important part, which is Dover Cole has a good reputation for being really diligent and going out into the community, really working to get a wide array of response, so that we can really make this into a community effort to look toward Kingston's future together, as opposed to the way we've done it, really piecemeal and project by project and so forth. So I think this is a real chance to create vision here. Jeffrey, do you want to give us anything about the process here, since you were on the committee?
No, I mean, I would just echo what you just said. This is a very important step. I think having an up-to-date zoning code would not only encourage development, but it would encourage the type of issues we were just discussing about in terms of creating more affordable housing, more inclusive housing, and I'm 100% in favor of this.
Great, thanks. So do we have a motion? Jeffrey is motioning. Do we have a second? Don Tollerman. All right, any discussion then? Michelle Hirsch?
I don't disagree that our zoning code needs to be simplified and application processes simplified, but I'm really aghast at a $500,000 cost to do this while a lot of the work is still left on the city. And we're still not in-person meetings, in City Hall. So, and the engagement process is a large part of the cost.
The engagement process it won't be starting right away. I mean, that was one of the things they mentioned before. That'll take place over a fair amount of time. They also were very confident that a lot of the work they had done in terms of reaching out online had been quite successful and actually had provided some improvement in reaching out. So I hear what you're saying about the cost, but from what I understand, Jeffrey, when the committee was looking at the different offers, the crucial thing that set Dover Coal apart was precisely their ability to reach out and to engage the community deeply and widely. Is that right?
That's correct. We received 3 proposals. The task force, they were, I think one was disqualified for external reasons. So of the 2, they did thorough interview process, and it was unanimous that Dover Coal was chosen as the most the better option, not only because of their plan of community outreach, but because of their success that they've had in other communities with this type of work.
Right. Okay. Anything else, Michelle?
No, I'm just not in favor of spending $500,000 for this process.
Okay.
Other cities have put out, RFPs for similar work for quite much, like extremely less cost. So,
Don Tollerman.
Hi, so I totally hear Michelle's concern. It's a lot of money, and I don't pretend to be an expert on what these things cost. But the fact that this is going to take a year and a half, the fact that it's going to involve multiple public meetings and hearings, the fact that the vendor is going to also do the seeker, a large part of the seeker review, the fact that this vendor is so qualified and that our city code is in such need of this, it makes me want to spend $500,000. And I know that's a huge chunk of money, so I don't want to be so quick or so cavalier to say, let's just spend it, but I'm saying we need something done properly. We need something done thoroughly. And so with those things in mind, I am, I'm more open to spending the larger amount of money. It's a once in a 50-year expense, right? So if we amortize it over 50 years, it doesn't sound so bad. But anyway, that's my take on it for now.
Great. Steve Shabbat, anything you want to add?
Well, we've been talking about this for a while, and I know the expense part has come up, quite often. Matter of fact, I think that's why we didn't vote on it last time. So, at some point we're going to have to decide. We can't just keep prolonging the agony. I think everybody's in agreement that we really need this. So, it's a lot of money. I really don't like spending the money, but if we're going to do this, it looks like we're going to have to. I don't really want to go with cheaper options just because they're cheaper. This seems to be a good fit. So, I'm willing to go with it.
Right. And I think another crucial thing is, the thing is to consider what monies we lose if we don't do this. And I think that we stand that this is the sort of thing that will have a really high overall return on investment. So I'm clearly in favor of it. Any other comments, Don Tollerman?
Well, is the decision now, do we make a motion I'd like to make a
We made the
motion.
motion. The question is, we can discuss further or we can vote on it.
Okay, so I'd like to vote on
Without objection then, unless, did anybody have any other comments? All right then, without objection, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Thumbs up. All right, all opposed? Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Happy
Thank
Easter.
you. Hope it doesn't take you long to get home.
Not tonight.
All right. Okay, now we get to go to the beginning of our agenda as it's listed. So that means taking us to the moving around of money in the wastewater treatment budget. Let me find that spot here. All right. So this is from Alan Winchell, asking to move some money around in the wastewater treatment budget in order to make ends meet. It will have zero financial impact. Any, John Toohey, do you need to say anything about this before we ask for a motion?
No, Rennie, you're correct. The vast majority of these transfers have no financial impact. They're just moving monies between lines.
Okay, there is one from the mayor that we'll want to look at a little more closely. Yes, but okay.
Yeah, and we can I can speak to that. That one is drawing from contingency, but there is expected FEMA reimbursement.
Let's wait until we get to it. Okay.
Yep.
Great. All right. So do I have a motion to accept this request? Michelle Hirsch, second. Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Yes, all right, good, thank you. The second one then, the next one is, this is from the mayor requesting a budget transfer. We're actually looking at COVID-related expenses in this one. The line is now over budget by $150-some thousand. The mayor says that we are requesting, that we are expecting a large portion of this to be ultimately reimbursed from FEMA. So Don, what can you tell us about this one?
So on this one here, the reason why I suggested using contingency was only because the FEMA, even though there's been extensive discussions between the grants office and FEMA, the project is not formally approved, but based on my conversations with Ruth Ann from grants, she's confident that the vast majority of the expenses will be reimbursed, if not 100% of the expenses. But once again, in the interest of being conservative, I felt more comfortable at this point just pulling it from contingency. It's the end of the year. We can't spend a contingency any longer. If we get the FEMA reimbursement, it'll go back into fund balance.
Okay, and this, just to be clear, the contingency we're talking about is the 2020?
Correct. Yeah. So so tonight there's two draws from contingency. This is one of them. And if we get the FEMA reimbursement, it'll replenish that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do we have a motion to, or any questions for John before I ask for the motion? Okay, motion to accept, Steve Shabbat. Second from Michelle Hirsch. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? All right, thank you. Everyone's in favor. Anybody opposed? No. Okay. The next item is from the comptroller. You know anything about this guy, John?
Not a thing, honestly.
Okay.
So yeah, I have three transfers in here, Rennie. One is One is the general fund accounts that I oversee. One is the sewer fund accounts that I oversee. And then you and I had talked about, I did a combined transfer for some of the smaller departments that had very minor transfers that were, easily explainable. And in the interest of being efficient, I consolidated them all into one transfer. Outside of that, you'll have transfers from all the major departments.
All right. Any
And there's
questions?
there's no draws from contingency for any of these.
Okay. Any questions for John on any of these then? These are the next 3 items, but we'll do them separately. In that case, Steve Shabbat, I got a motion for the first one. Second, Michelle Hirsch. Any discussion? All in favor? Steve, are you there? There we go. Okay. All right. Thank you. So the second one from the comptroller. Do I have a motion? Michelle Hirsch. Do I have a second? Jeffrey. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? All right, Steve. Keep freezing here. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. And then the last one is the multi-office. Lots of smaller ones here. Do I have a motion? Michelle Hirsch. That was a motion, right, Michelle? Okay. You're innovating with the fingers you're using. Second. Don Tollerman. All in favor? Steve? Are you in favor? No. Okay. All right. Then the 6th item is from DPW, interdepartmental transfer, cover shortfalls. This one has 0 financial impact. Any can I get a motion? Don Tollerman, second. Jeffrey. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye, aye, aye. Steve, you in favor? Thumbs up. All right. Then we'll move to the second one from DPW. Another internal transfer. This is the sewer fund. John, is there anything you want to tell us about this one?
No, this is a total of 25,385. This is mainly to cover contractual expenses, which the majority of which is the separation of service payout, which typically would come from contingency, but the sewer department was able to cover it internally. So I was glad to see that. That was good budgeting on their end.
Great. All right. Do I have a motion? Don Tollerman. Second. Michelle Hirsch. All in favor? Aye, aye, aye. Okay. The next one is from the clerk's office to balance the 2020 budget. This one also has no financial impact. Do we have a motion? Michelle Hirsch. Jeffrey making a second. Any discussion? We're all good. Okay. In that case, if there's no discussion, all in favor, call for the vote. All in favor, please. All right. Steve, we got a thumb for you. I'm not hearing Steve. Kevin, did you want to say something?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right. Oh, I see. Yeah, you're coming up. I'm sorry. I thought you might want to speak to what's going on with Steve. Give some advice to him there. All right. Then the next item is Corporation Counsel.
So, as everyone's aware, we're still in litigation relative to the Washington Avenue tunnel. So it's going to be, it's expensive litigation. It's, you know, a number of defendants involved. It's pretty heavy duty. If at any point, you know, you want an update, we can talk in an attorney-client session and I can fill you in.
Thank you.
But we knew this was going to be coming.
Okay. And this is coming from contingency? John, is this the other one you were talking about?
Yeah, this is the second one.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion? Jeffrey? Do we have a second? Don? Any discussion? Costs money to get money. If there's no discussion, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, thumbs up. Steve, are you with us now? Any opposed? All right. Steve trying to get in touch. Steve's saying he's frozen. So yeah. All right. Well, hopefully he'll get that resolved in a moment. Here we go. Corporation Counsel. This next one is in the fire department. Let's see. Elissa, Steve is trying to call in. Steve, Elissa, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Is it an ice skating rink?
I don't know what that is.
So Steve is frozen and I think he's trying to call in.
Okay.
Do you see that?
I just let somebody in. I don't know who it is. Might be
Okay.
him. Oh yeah, 5061. That's it. Steve, can you hear us on the phone? Alyssa, what is it you pressed to unmute yourself on the phone? It is *6.
*6. All right. Send him a text saying to do that. There we go.
All right, here we go.
All right. So were you thumbs up on each of those other items there, Steve?
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. All right. So now we're at the fire department. And Chief Brown is moving some money around, but also here, 0 financial impact. So do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
All right. Second, Michelle Hirsch. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, then I'll call for the vote. Thumbs up or yell aye.
Yes.
Or yes. Anyone opposed? All right. The next one here, item 11, Parks and Recreation. This one also has no financial impact. Moving it from seasonal employees to pay for these other things. Do I have a motion to accept? Michelle Hirsch.
Motion. Second.
Second from Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. The last one is, oh wait, we did grant funding from planning. The last item actually then is one that the mayor, John Toohey?
Rennie, there was a budget transfer from KPD that was in the email that didn't make it to the agenda. It's a no financial impact transfer. It was in everyone's email. I don't know if we can handle that, but I do need to get that approved.
I'm sorry, where is it, John?
It was in the email that I sent to the entire council to add the items to the agenda. It was the last item in the attachment. It just never made it onto the actual agenda.
That's on me, Rennie. I missed it.
But it's transfers in and out, no financial impact, no draw from contingency. If you look at the email I sent, I can resend it to everyone right now. If that would help.
Hold on. Let's see. I'm sorry. You sent it when?
Let's see.
Is this, no, that's debt profile.
I only got one email from you today about the caucus.
Yeah, it was, let me just go back and look. I sent it to, give me 1 second here, I'm sorry. I sent it on March 24th. I'm going to resend it now. And it was the police item, the last item on there. I just resent it.
Oh, I see. Last item. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Internal transfers, budget modifications, moving $160,000 from one place to another with no financial impact. Where are you all? There we go. Sorry. Okay, Michelle Hirsch.
Making a motion.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so this will actually be 16 KPD motion NH. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. So then the other last item here is a request from the mayor. This is in regard to managing, if the Dover Coal passes, this is in regard to managing the issue from the Housing Initiatives Department. So John, I see Kevin's here. Who wants to walk us through this?
I can go ahead and do that. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Kevin. Let me just introduce you. Kevin Court, our new Director of Housing Initiatives, for those of you who may not know him. We're glad you're on board, Kevin. So if you'll give us a sense of what's going on with this request.
Sure. So it's a no impact request. We're looking for a few transfers within the department to get equipment, first of all. Also to fund a full-time position within the department using existing grant funding, and to move some funds allocated for contracted services that would be used to provide support for the rezoning initiative, namely the seeker aspect of that.
And what is the what's the grant funding you're talking about?
There's about $25,000 being transferred from the LISC 2.0 grant to hire to help offset the cost of a full-time individual. Their grant was given as a part of the Zombie Properties Initiative. And so that's funds that have been put in at this time. There's also additional funding from the Anti-Displacement Learning Network, who has also contributed to creating the full-time position.
And so is that part of the New York, is that the part that says New York State grant?
That is a third item. It's the Restore grant that we originally received for the demolition of the bowling alley that facilitated the construction of Energy Square. In that was also funding to rehabilitate 3 homes in Midtown. And so those funds are being transferred so we can begin to issue RFPs for the first of those 3 homes.
Okay. Jeffrey, you've got a question?
Yeah. Hi, Kevin. I have a question for Kevin. Is this position, I know Caitlin was transferred before you came on board to DPW. So would this be the same position that she was holding and the funding would be coming from the same source?
No, I don't believe so. And that's, I can have maybe John want to chime in here for a minute, but we moved, one of the items was to remove the funding source, which I think moved to the land bank, and eliminate that position and introduce a new grade 16 position that would be full-time. I think the original budget that was used in my predecessor's department included the part-time position, not a full-time. So,
okay, thank you.
I think that's accurate. I can let John chime in.
Well, this part of this transfer was pulling out the full-time senior account clerk, which was that position, and then putting back in a different full-time position, and then some movement with part-timers. But yeah, that's why the overall we're actually taking money out of regular pay. If you see that, it's part of the transfer. So adding the full-time position is not, we're actually decreasing regular pay rather than increasing it.
And so, sorry, go ahead, Michelle Hirsch.
Are we moving somebody into the position that's already hired, or are we going to have to hire someone new?
This would be a new hire.
Other questions for John or Kevin? Well, is there a rush on this?
To an extent, yes. We're looking for someone to be able to start May 1st, especially since a lot of the LISC grant is timed and those disbursements need to be start to move. If we don't use the LISC money by November, we will lose a portion of those funds. So, into that sense, there's urgency. Also, I don't have a work computer, so that would be nice. Or really, I can't take Zoom calls in my office. I have to run home to take Zoom calls because we don't have a webcam.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't say it's urgent, but it'd be nice.
So what portion of this then is grant money? Because what I hear is that this position actually would not be a permanent position if it's being significantly funded with grant money.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the portion of the money that's going to go, $195,000 that's included in the budget is for the Restore grant, which is not personnel budget. It's the grant monies that are already predetermined to be spent on 3 particular properties that were written into that grant originally. Like I said, back before the development of Energy Square. $25,000 of funds for the part-time position would come from LISC as part of their vacant properties grant called Zombie 2.0. And additional funding could be available for an extension of this position through the ADLN grant, which is the $1 million grant that we received from the Anti-Displacement Learning Network to help further their grant initiatives, of which you've heard of the Tiny Homes RFP, which is one of the 3 initiatives that we've started, and there are 2 more coming down the pipeline.
And so what exactly of this is city money, directly city money, that would be going to the position?
I don't think we are adding funds beyond what was already included in the part-time budget when this was originally approved. I don't believe any of the funds, I don't think we're adding any city money to compensate for the position. It's my understanding. We're using existing regular pay funds and about $50,000 total from different grants.
Okay. John Toohey, does that sound right to you?
Essentially, sorry, am I muted? No, I'm off.
No,
yeah, I mean, we're jockeying some things around. I mean, we pulled out the 1 full-time position that we know got moved, and we added another one. We pulled out the part-time pay. If it helps you, I can send you a spreadsheet that gives you a crosswalk from the original budget to this budget request, so you can see all the different steps along the way to show like the puts and the takes of where these numbers came from. I can send it to you after the meeting.
Okay.
But essentially, there's it's zero impact, right? So it's not costing the taxpayers any additional money to make these changes.
But once the grants run out, it does cost the taxpayer. I don't know what's going on here. Sorry.
Are you saying because it's still city money that we wouldn't be spending if we didn't do this position? Is that what you're saying, Michelle?
Yeah, that's something that's all.
My statement is that this transfer is a zero impact transfer. There's a cost of not doing this transfer, right? Kevin explained the impact on the grants. This transfer will not change the gap between revenues and expenses in the adopted budget, right? So in the original adopted budget, you had expenses of $275,100. You had revenues of $198.35. The gap was $84,265. That gap remains $84,265 with these changes. It's just, you're kind of moving some, some expenses around, some revenues around. There were obviously, as Kevin's mentioned, there were some additional grant revenues identified. To that extent, there's also some additional expenditures, but they do offset in total. So, it's a decision the council has to make, the cost of, whether or not you want to make these changes that Kevin's proposed, and what the impact would be if the council chooses not to, right? So
you're saying
This is also,
sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
specifically, this was brought into the context of the rezoning proposal. The grants that are currently within the department, adding that work plus any additional work that would have to happen for that rezoning possible is not possible without additional staff. So I think that's why it was put into this item. If we would like for these grants to be administered, if we would like these initiatives, I mean, they're very large. One is $1 million. The other one is not quite as much, but we have a total of about $1.5 million in grants. If we want those to be administered, well, and if you want any additional support from this department for the seeker questions that are going to come up in the rezoning or any other additional technical questions for the rezoning, we need additional staff.
And the bulk of that payment is from the grants.
That's correct.
And we also risk losing grant money if we don't create this position.
That's correct. I have spoken to the LISC grant donors today, actually, and we need to start drawing down this budget. We have a work plan that includes the provision of funds for this position, and they're not particularly keen on trying to spend more time reworking of the grant plan. It would cause delays that would jeopardize our grant funding.
Okay.
Rennie, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
This is for John or Kevin, whoever. So moving forward, do we expect to receive this grant every year? If we don't receive it next year, will this position just be, in the budget as a line item? How are we going to fund this position moving forward?
Was that for me or?
Anybody?
Well, either whoever can answer it. You or John?
I'm not sure. So far, there's no identified funds for continuing this position. If there were no funds identified when the grants would end to continue it on, presumably it would just be terminated. At that time, though,
Okay.
the administration of those grants would have ended. So presumably their work would also have come to a conclusion.
Okay, so there's a strong possibility this position will not be here next year.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
Equally, if I understand you, Kevin, there's also not necessarily a need for the position because the idea is to administer the Empire grant, and if we pass the Dover Coal, that as well.
That's right. So we can reassess whether or not we need one at all at that time, which I think has historically happened in this department a few times already, where part-time positions or full-time positions have come up and they've been reconfigured as needs changed. So that would continue to happen.
Okay. Michelle Hirsch?
I'd like to just make a motion to table this until our next finance meeting in 2 weeks. I mean, we just found out about this today.
Mhm.
And I don't think that 2 weeks just to digest all this and crunch numbers is asking too much.
I'm fine. We can put it onto old business for the Finance Committee meeting. Is that the consensus here? Or does anybody want to make a motion to discuss and vote? Jeffrey?
I have another question for Kevin. You mentioned that you needed to start expending these funds by May. By postponing this, it means we won't vote on it until the May Common Council meeting. So would that put us at risk of losing these grants?
The short answer is yes. I think there was also a bit of a delay in hiring a new housing director. So I think that the work plan for this grant kind of sat untouched for a few months. And so that's also contributed to the delay.
All right, then. So one possibility is to let it go on to old business with the risk of losing a fair amount of money in grant money, or we vote on this tonight. We could also, we've got time until the next Common Council meeting, which is Tuesday. So we've got time to investigate, ask questions. So we might want to have a motion tonight and a vote. So that would give us at least the chance. We can always, of course, if it just doesn't sound right for some reason, put it, send it back to committee, again, at the risk of losing the money at the Common Council meeting on April 6th. Michelle Hirsch?
So I'll withdraw my motion to move it to the next finance meeting if we can meet before caucus. Or at caucus about it.
Do we have time, Elissa, to, I don't know if we've got time to call for a special meeting for next Monday.
Yeah, you can, yeah, I can post it tomorrow.
Okay. Does that sound good to folks?
Mhm.
Don, you okay with that plan? Steve, you okay with that plan?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I don't believe we need a motion and a vote on that. Kevin, are you there?
I am.
I'm sorry, the other Kevin.
There's never enough.
There's never enough. Band of Kevins.
No, you can just go ahead and schedule it.
Thank you, sir. All right, so I think we're all agreed on that then. All right, Michelle, you're good? Steve?
Yep.
Jeffrey? Don? Okay, great. So we'll set that. I don't think we have another event beforehand. So 6 o'clock Monday night. All right, Alyssa?
Sure. And caucus is at 7. You want to start the
I'm
special
sorry.
finance?
Right. I'm sorry. 6:30 then.
Okay.
I think we can do this in half an hour. And John, I believe we're going to have a special guest at caucus.
Yeah, that's correct. I think the presentation should be around a half an hour, Rennie. We just wanted to go through our debt portfolio, and it's basically a PowerPoint to go over what our current debt structure looks like, compare our debt structure to our peers, compare it to the market metrics. It's been a project that I've been working on with our fiscal advisor for a couple months now, and we've gone through a few reiterations of this, but I think it's pertinent information. I think it'll give the council a pretty good overview of where we stand. I think you'll find informative. Not looking for any action to be taken by the council at this time. It's really for informational purposes only. And Noah Nadelson from Unisat Services, their firm has been providing service to the city for over 20 years. So, and Noah's been providing service to the city for so he has a pretty good background as well.
Great. That all sounds good, except for the one thing, Don, we have no peers.
I'm sorry, Randy, what?
We have no peers. We're head and shoulders.
Well, that is one of the things that he'll actually we will talk about. There's peers in terms of like population and size and different metrics, but every municipality is unique, right? So, yeah.
Good. The other thing, one last thing here is, John, you're going to be out of town when we normally meet, right?
In May.
And so we were talking about moving finance to a different Wednesday night. Can you, what was the idea there?
We had talked about either the Wednesday before, the Wednesday after. My only concern with the Wednesday before might be in that, the timing from the council meeting to the finance meeting might not give you a lot of time. All right. So typically I would think the week, pushing it back a week might be better.
We run into the laws and rules, and we don't want to get Jeffrey mad. Unless, I mean, I don't think we want to meet at 5:30 or something like that. Do you have any idea what might be on the agenda?
At this point, I'm not aware of much at this point. I mean, we've covered the bulk of the year-end stuff. I know I have a communication in for the April meeting. I don't have anything yet, but once again, it'll be whatever comes in during the month of April. As of right now, there's nothing that I'm aware of, but those communications haven't occurred yet. I don't think there'll be much in terms of for my office.
Jeffrey, do you have a sense of what's on the agenda yet for April in laws and rules?
I haven't seen any the communications yet. I won't see them until Monday, but so far we only have one thing on old business, which is the hotel definition, which we're having a public hearing the day before.
Okay.
Randy, I would think our agenda would be pretty light.
Because I'm wondering if we would want to set our meeting for 7:30 after laws and rules. Would that make any sense? Or is that other ideas here? I mean, because I guess we could look to try to meet on a different night of the week too.
We do it Tuesday?
Oh, no.
Or
Don
Thursday?
just got gored by a rhinoceros.
I would not like to do it another night. I would like to somehow make it work the same night.
Let's see. I mean, doing it the Wednesday, the 7th would not, I mean, it is soonish, but we've done that before. Would people be okay with doing it on the 7th? Don? No?
I can't on the 7th. Why, I don't, we can't find a time before caucus or before council meeting or after, as you said, Rennie?
This is the regular finance meeting.
Oh, the regular finance.
For May.
You just said April 7th. That's our regular, what's our regular
I'm
date?
sorry. I'm looking at the wrong month. May.
It would be April 14th is our regular date.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's May. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing. Our regular date would be May the 12th. Right, so we're looking at, I think, well, it would be May 5th, which would be the night after caucus in May. I'm fine with doing it that night if everybody else is.
We can't find another day when we already have a meeting.
Well, we could do it on the 19th if we do it after laws and rules. Or on the 26th if we do it after public safety.
Yeah, I don't know how everybody else feels. We just have so many nights that we give up to meetings. So I'd rather not lose another night, but rather couple it with another meeting we already have. So that's my feeling.
Well, we do have some time. We can talk about this a little bit more. Also, Tony's not here and he's a regular member, so we could ask his opinion. We don't have to decide this tonight. But if you'll all look at your calendars and see what looks good and what's possible, I'm fine with moving it to a different night or meeting after another committee. All right. Any other thoughts on that then? No, we're good. All right, so we have now another special finance meeting, 6:30 on Monday, April, is that 5th? Yes, Monday, April 5th. Common Council meeting on April the 6th. All right, if there's nothing else, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Sorry, Rennie, that was 5 o'clock.
What's that?
I'm sorry, on April 5th, that was what time? 5 or 5:30?
No, the special finance committee meeting to look at the position in the housing department will be at 6:30 before caucus, Monday, April 5th. All right. Motion, anybody want to? Michelle Hirsch motions to adjourn. Steve seconds. All in favor? Aye, aye, aye. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Right, thank you.
Thanks.
Good night, all. Thank you, Alyssa.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.